Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world.
So you don't want to frighten the American public.
France and South Korea have also got evacuation plans.
But you need to prepare for and assume.
Strongly warning Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China.
That this is going to be a real serious problem.
France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the US.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
For 4 years, I've been trying to stop this man because if he strengthens America, if he makes it great again, if he brings the economy back again, the reset won't happen. The New World Order is going to be set way back. Who knows when they're going to have another COVID opportunity like this one again, and they know it. So ask yourselves why they hate this man. These folks, these men, they hate God. They hate the unborn. They hate the traditional family. They hate you. And they hate Donald Trump, whose political opponents, by the way, right now are knocking statues of saints to the ground. They're beating up cops, and they're burning flags. You say you don't like Trump. I'm sorry, friends, but who cares? That doesn't really matter anymore. But you think of Trump's personality or his tweets. Look at the big picture. The choice is simple, friends. Stand with America right now, or fall with the New World Order in the not-so-distant future. There's no other choice.
The future belongs to us, friends. This is not another election. This is war. This is holy war. And we need to go to war against these people.
That is a new and powerful voice, editor-in-chief of the Remnant magazine that's been around, newspaper, a Catholic newspaper, national Catholic newspaper, been around since 1967, Michael Matt. You're live in the War Room, Capitol Hill. It's the 12th of October, the year of our Lord 2020. Judge Barrett's hearings going on. Assassination yesterday in Denver. Another night of chaos as Indigenous Peoples Day dawns in Portland with the taking down and desecration of the statues of Abraham Lincoln and Teddy Roosevelt. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network nationwide. You're also on Real America Voice out of Denver, Dish Channel 219. In Chicago, Comcast Channel 113. And, of course, Newsmax TV now in 70 million homes and blown throughout the world in Mandarin and in English, GTV and G News. We're going to be going to New Zealand later in the show to talk about to a member of Parliament about the rise of the Chinese Communist Party in Asia and the impact it's had on New Zealand and the impact it's going to have in the entire West. I want to go to Michael Matt now. Michael, you're a fire breather. The lecture or the talk that you give is Christ or Chaos. Talk to us about that. Talk to us about what your work is when you define what the stakes are here. Something we've been saying. We don't care if you don't like Trump. We don't care if you don't like his house style. We don't care if you don't like his tweets. If you don't like the way he talks. If you don't like the way you think he's a bully. It's all irrelevant. The stakes here could not be clearer. So walk us through what Christ or Chaos 2020 is, Michael Matt.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Happy Columbus Day. I'm old-fashioned enough to still use that. Yeah, Christ or Chaos actually goes back to an expression by the great English writer Hilaire Belloc. Basically, he's just saying if we throw God, we throw morality out, we can only anticipate the sort of chaos that we're now seeing. Because it's impossible. There simply are not enough police in the world to police a society that has no morality. And I think what we're seeing right now is just a fulfillment of that prophecy, that if somebody doesn't start talking about morality, you know, we simply can't just put everybody in leg arms and handcuffs and force our will upon them. People have to police themselves. We have to do that, and that's what morality has done. And I think we're seeing a real crisis now in a lack of morality, a lack of any reference to the rights of God, the law of God. And consequently, we have a lot of problems right now. And unfortunately, the Catholic Church is not helping the situation, because the Catholic Church seems to be kind of going along with the world right now. As you know, in her human element, it's very progressive. And as a practicing Catholic, I'm very concerned about the lack of leadership coming from the Vatican, coming from the Catholic Church right now in this moment of crisis.
Look, we reported at the beginning of the top of the show in the first hour that the Financial Times of London on its front page is reporting that the Catholic Church now is liquidating its portfolio, an investment portfolio it holds in Switzerland. I think it sold 24 million pounds today to make up for a fiasco of these financial instruments and real estate deals they're doing in London that are not working out. But the buried lead is that the deplorables that go in the pews every week, working class Catholics, are just not stroking checks, just not putting into the second collection. Where do you think this church stands culturally as a force for stability and order? Where do you see it right now, Michael?
Basically, they call themselves the Church of Accompaniment now. This is one of their new catchphrases. I see it as the Church of Abandonment. And we really saw this with the COVID pandemic. You know, rather than the church playing a really important role in people's lives, culturally, spiritually, morally, just to give comfort, as we've seen so often in the past with the Catholic Church through her missions and her churches and her interaction with the people during a time of crisis, we saw the church pretty much just buckle under and shut down. And at the same time, the church is, through Pope Francis, who's a big disappointment to a lot of practicing Catholics like myself, they're going along with Davos, Switzerland. They're going along with the United Nations. They're going along with Jeffrey Sachs and the Sustainable Development Goals. And they don't seem to be overly concerned anymore. They almost seem embarrassed, in fact, by the church's teachings about morality and about the consequences of bad actions and sin, those old-fashioned words like sin, you know, heaven and hell. And so consequently, we see the church going merrily along now. And as you know, I think the COVID, the post-COVID, the Great Reset is going to have ramifications that are very frightening for everybody. If they can get rid of Donald Trump, for example, and I'm not saying that if Trump wins, everything's going to be great, but certainly he represents an obstacle to this green reset, the Great Reset that you hear about from the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, from Jeffrey Sachs. The Green Reset is in play now. This is their great opportunity, in my opinion. And the Catholic Church, rather than tapping the brakes and saying, wait a minute, there's a lot of other things that need to be considered right now, they're just sort of going merrily along with the AOCs and the Joe Bidens and the Gutierrez and the rest. And it's a very frightening thing to see the church no longer playing her role, but rather losing her identity and going along with a very secularist, and I dare say, New World Order style solution to what's happening right now.
Michael, I want to go to that phrase you use, New World Order. Sometimes people hear that, and particularly people that maybe don't focus on the news that much, or don't have a sophisticated financial understanding of how the world works, and they think, oh my God, this guy's another guy with a tinfoil hat on. But you've got actually a very smart and nuanced way you describe it. When you say New World Order, what do you mean? Walk us through that.
Well, I think the New World Order is going to be, it's an old concept. What we're talking about is the Old World Order, by the way. And I think what they're talking about is a very secularist, a very human answer to all the world's problems. So what they want to do, they want to reimagine everything, economics, social justice, everything, in light of sort of a grand Green New Deal, the Green New Deal, so forth. So I think that's the New World Order is going to, I totally agree with you. When you say it, people glaze over, like, oh no, not this again. But that is what they have in mind. That's what they're calling it. It's not our word. That's what they're talking about, a new thing. And a lot of things as far as the Catholic Church is concerned, and we just saw this encyclical by Pope Francis, Fratelli Tutti, which seems like he's got a bunch of old ideas there, many of which were gleaned from a John Lennon ditty, imagine there's no heaven, there's no hell, just this brotherhood of man stuff. It's very passé. And so I think if there is to be a new world order, and God knows, things could be improved in the world. We do have a lot of problems pre-COVID. I don't think the old normal was perfect by any stretch. But if there is going to be a new world order, it seems to be a new world order that's not going to have any reliance on God, on morality. It's going to be more this sort of Freemasonic idea of a brotherhood of man, whatever that means. And I just think that we need to be very careful when we're not speculating. They come right out back in January in Davos in Switzerland at the World Economic Forum. They have Bill Gates there. They got George Soros there. They're admitting it, Steve. This is not a conspiracy theory anymore. They're telling us exactly what they're going to do. They had Cardinal Turkson there representing the Vatican. They're all on the same page, and they really want to use COVID, in my opinion, to restart, reset, and reimagine everything about our lives. And I don't know that they've demonstrated the competency to be able to pull this off. So I see us going from the old normal into a new normal that's going to be worse than the old normal if things keep going the way they are. Lots of reasons to be concerned. There's also lots of reasons to realize that people are waking up. So we need to stand up and say, what's going on here? Because so far it doesn't look too good.
Okay, let me ask you. People say, well, then a guy like Trump's a bully. He's offensive on his tweets. He doesn't go to church. He's unchurched. He doesn't really know Christian literature. He doesn't really know the Bible. If you mentioned Hilaire Belloc, he would glaze over. Why do you put your stock? Why does this movement put their stock in someone that that guys like Pope Francis and the people around him say is essentially a barbarian?
And we got involved supporting Trump early in 2016 simply because we had seen the mainstream conservatives, the rhinos, running this country into the ground, with their wars, establishing democracy at the point of the gun and all over the world, nation building. And all of a sudden, this guy, Donald Trump, who for years had been saying, I could do a better job at this as a businessman, as a capitalist, dare I say. And so we thought, why not give him a try? And what Donald Trump did, and why we're supporting him now, is he said, I'm willing to stand with this basket of deplorables, because he said, I don't understand what's wrong with these people. They seem like good, patriotic, God-fearing, pro-family Americans. What's wrong with them? So again, and you know this, it's not that the left hate Donald Trump because of Donald Trump. They hate us. They hate conservatives. And they're really upset with Trump because he gave us a voice. He went to the mall. He stood with the pro-lifers. He's standing with pro-family, pro-conservative groups to the point now where Rand Paul is at the RNC rather than some of the neocons. So I think that's the big thing for people to say. We're not saying he's a saint. We're not saying he's a second coming of Jesus Christ or he's Charlemagne. I think he's a decent fellow who's looking at all the normal, hardworking, God-loving Americans, and he's saying, I'm going to stand with these people. And that was his crime. That's what he did that made him so loathed by the media. He wasn't a racist, Steve, before, when he was doing The Apprentice, before he became President Trump. He wasn't a racist. He was beloved by the media for the most part. He becomes president, he stands with us, and now they're calling him a racist because they got nothing else. So that's why I'm standing with him, because I think that he's proving that he's able to come through with his promises, and he's actually helping the country.
We got about a minute and a half. I got 90 seconds. I want you to walk us through The Remnant. It's actually a very powerful site, very powerful paper. Talk to our audience about it. Where are you taking this paper?
Basically, what The Remnant is something that we didn't reinvent the wheel. We're not radicals. We're simply Catholics the way Catholics were for a long, long, long time. There was a revolution in the Catholic Church in the 1960s, as you well know. The Remnant simply hasn't changed anything. So our editorial policy is just do what the Catholic Church has always done. If the Catholic Church teaches something about abortion or contraception, well, we're going to stick to that because they haven't changed that on the books. That's still on the Catholic books, which again makes Francis's loyalty to the Sustainable Development Goals so suspicious because they support contraception and abortion. So we're just trying to say, wait, there's something different here. You either have 1,965 years of truth in the Catholic Church, despite the problems that the Church has had, or what's happened in the last 50, 60 years is Catholicism. Which is it? Because they're diametrically opposed to each other. So we feel much stronger standing with the traditions of the Church, with the teachings, the infallible teachings of the Church, than going along with the novelties which have led, by the way, the Catholic churches to empty out, the seminaries to empty out, huge crisis like the sex crisis in the Church. Nothing seems to be working post-1965, so we're saying, hey, guys, let's go back and see what went wrong. And that's essentially what The Remnant is, not changing anything, not saying anything new. We're just sticking with what worked, and what's now demonstrated. The new stuff is demonstrably false and dangerous to the Church and to the world.
In 30 seconds, the financial crisis that's now starting to engulf the Church and all the corruption, how do you think this will make any fundamental change in the Church?
I don't. What they do is they trade off the prestige, the power, the influence, the glory, the majesty of 2,000 years of Catholic Church. So they don't answer anything. When they were accused by Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano with the sex crisis, they basically said, Pope Francis said, I'm not going to answer that. I'm not going to answer Archbishop Vigano's complaint. They think they can continue to just ignore and cover up, just as they've done with the pedophile scandal and so many other scandals in the Church, that ultimately the Catholic world is so dumbed down that nobody's going to notice, nobody's going to care. And we as Catholics feel this has got to stop. We need to hold the human element, the men in the Church, accountable for the scandal that they're causing all of us throughout the whole world. And so, yeah, I don't think the financial situation, they're going to get away with as much as they possibly can. I don't think it's going to change.
Michael Matt of the Remnant will be back with War and Pandemic in just a second.
Brett Favre, legendary quarterback. Jerry Rice, legendary wide receiver.
You ready for your weekly meeting?
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's do this. Let's stack the deck.
When legends play, they wear Copperfit Advanced Back Pro. Copperfit's best-selling compression back support just got better with new double-band adjustable supports for customizable compression when you need it most.
Since I put this on, I feel so much better. The core is the most important thing. To know that I'm stabilized here. Whatever I'm doing, I can give it 100%.
4 built-in stabilizing supports designed to improve posture and help reduce lower back stress and strain.
You have back pain and it's affecting your everyday life. You do something.
If you can find something to help you get back out and be active like Copperfit, go for it.
Absolutely.
Do not give up.
A high-performance compression fabric infused with the powerful properties of copper, 360-degree flexible mobility, and lightweight, durable construction.
Nothing more painful than having back pains. If you're aching, if you feel like you can't work out anymore, you can. And that's with Copperfit.
Yeah. It's for all of us who still want to be active, still want to compete.
Way to go. That's what I'm talking about. Man, this really does feel good. It feels to me like the fountain of youth.
Copperfit's best-selling back support just got bigger, badder, and better. Or call 1-800-944-5851. Or on the web at advancedbackpro.com. Get yours now for only $19.99.
This does feel good.
That's what I've been saying.
You think it was fair?
It was fun.
Play for the love of the game.
Copperfit, live limitless.
So, Frank, you have a big hurt. Why do you need Nugenix?
After 40, a guy loses free testosterone. Even me. I couldn't stay in shape like I used to.
Frank! So does Nugenix really work?
Oh, yeah. My workouts are incredible now. I'm feeling stronger, more energetic, with a lot more drive.
Frank. So, say I knew someone who should try Nugenix. How does he do that?
It's easy. Just send a text to get a complimentary bottle.
Frank's right. Now you can claim a complimentary bottle of award-winning Nugenix by texting BUFF to 42424. Its unique formula is powered by Testofen, a patented key ingredient clinically researched to help a man feel stronger, leaner, more energetic, and more passionate. Text BUFF to 42424 for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of new Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. That's BUFF to 42424.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
You're here to get the signal, not the noise. Tomorrow's news today. You'll remember, I think it was 2 months ago, we talked about when this election gets kicked to the House of Representatives, one of the big issues, we had Bill McGinley on his back, I think in early August, talking about quorums, how Nancy Pelosi is going to be able to try to squirm out of actually having a state-by-state count is to make sure that Democrats will make sure they're not around, right? You're going to have this issue about quorums. And guess what? Our favorite guy, Chucky Schumer, brings it up today. This is how they're going to try to delay Judge Barrett's. They're talking about not having a quorum at the committee. I'd shut the committee down today. I don't think you need to hear from Judge Barrett. Let her send it. She sent her opening statement. If they got anything to say about it, just do it. Let's just take this to a vote in the Senate. And if they're going to have a quorum issue, get the Capitol Police. Let's get them out there, right? Mike Pence is in charge over there. Let's get them out there, round these guys up, and bring them back. The game's just over. You're going to start having this quorum thing. It's not going to work, right? I'm telling you, this is going to be a massive issue. This issue of quorums is going to be a massive issue in January when this gets kicked to the House of Representatives, because that's where it's going. All these 50 million, 60 million mail-in ballots, which are going to be uncertifiable, right? How are you going to certify all this? Election administration, right? This is where we're going. Jack, give us I want the social media handle, The Remnant. I mean, Michael Matt, wow, what a warrior. Love that guy. you're going to start to hear him a lot on the War Room. That guy's he's woke, right? I just love that guy. So tell us, how do people get to the Remnant?
Yeah, great stuff. On Twitter, it's at Remnant News, and then you can follow Michael at Michael_J_Matt. You will also find this on War Room Pandemic's Twitter feed. We've got all the information there at War Room Pandemic.
For all you evangelical Christians, we're also going to start having more of the evangelicals on some of the news sites. What we're trying to do is make sure you get information. This is why we have Jack. Can I have another one of those? Is Jack? When's the last time Jack Maxey got tested? Right? Or is it the pinch between your cheek and gum? Is that allowed? Is that the great CCP virus killer?
Well, I think the answer is that man cannot live by Copenhagen alone, Steve.
We're going to have evangelical voices on here. We're going to have evangelical news sites. Remember, this is all about all the different faiths, particularly Catholicism, Christianity. We've had Mara Monahan, the Tibetan Buddhist, the Uyghurs. We want everybody on here. Yesterday, it was the amazing thing at the Albanian Catholic Church. St. Paul's up in I think in Rochester Hills, Michigan, where they were all going to go out and knock on doors afterwards. We had a imam, we had a rabbi from Israel, we had a multi-dimensional service to kick things off because in Albania they've really gone out of their way to try to make sure it works for all faiths there, which you want to see. So it was really very powerful. But the Catholic Church of St. Paul's, I want to thank Father Fred and all the guys that everybody put that on. It was just amazing. Evie and everybody. It's just an incredible day. Also talked to the Rod of Iron. I was honored to go to the Rod of Iron Ministries and the Rod of Iron Conference. They had thousands of people out in Pikes County, Pennsylvania, and they were there to sign guys up, make sure people are registered to vote. It's a Rod of Iron is a Christian ministry. We're going to have the actual heads of the ministry tomorrow, evangelical Christians, and they are big-time Second Amendment folks. I mean, this was all about standing tall, what's going to take to defend your country, and that, hey, in Pennsylvania, Joe Biden's got to understand something, right? They're not going to back a candidate that wants to take your Second Amendment rights away, take your guns away. The Rod of Iron Ministries. It was an amazing thing. I was honored to talk to the conference for 2 days, both Saturday and Sunday, and these are action-oriented people. Reverend Sean Moon and his father Justin will be on the show tomorrow. We're going to have Ralph Reed later in the week. We had David Rivkin coming on, talk about the Constitution. Judge Barrett got a lot going on. Raheem, any updates? This Denver story, the signal here is that you got Keith Olbermann and all these hotheads that are raising up the rhetoric. Of course, the mainstream media is saying it's on the right. I don't hear anybody on the right sitting there giving the kind of rhetoric that Keith Olbermann's saying, calling the president a terrorist and saying the people around him are enablers of terrorism and they should be locked up and expunged. He said they should be expunged. And he's still on the payroll of Disney. He's still getting paid by Disney. And you see the NBC affiliate. We're going to get up in the next half hour. We're going to get up the photos of the boards of directors of Tegnos, because these guys got to step up here, right? I think the family of the guy that was shot down in cold blood ought to be all over these board of directors. They're responsible for this. They're directly responsible, the CEO, the management team, and the board of directors. So in this assassination out in Denver, Raheem, what's the latest?
Well, I mean, the latest is as we know it so far, which is to say that there is still some level of lack of understanding about where this person actually came from, how he was brought on to ostensibly protect this 9 News, the CNN affiliate, NBC affiliate reporter. We know also something we haven't mentioned is that the reporter seemed to have been, at least from the images that we've seen, seemed to have been filming himself. Now, we know that the reporter was taken into police custody alongside his alleged security guard who shot a man dead in the street. But we don't know what's happened to that cell phone. We don't know what's happened to the footage that might have been on that cell phone. So we're kind of waiting to see what 9 News says about this, the local Denver station. So far, they're not actually really reporting what the rest of the Denver News is reporting about the altercation that involved themselves. And now, of course, there will be major liability issues here for them, so they're probably not allowed to say some things, and I'm sure their lawyers are telling them not to report and say some things. But But the truth is here, they're getting absolutely slaughtered on social media right now for their silence about this. Everybody wants more information and details of what happened. And, you know, the sad thing about this all, Steve, is that it's coming down to the, you know, the alternative media, the MAGA blue check fact checkers to really out this story. Nobody in the establishment media really seems to care that a man was murdered. Can you imagine the response if it was the other way around on Saturday afternoon?
Raheem, let me ask you, what I'm curious about is NBC. Listen, this is just like Keith Olbermann being paid by Disney and ESPN. What is NBC and CNN doing? These are supposed to be our betters. These are supposed to be these massive institutions, right? And they always say, oh, all these guys on the right, the populists, the nationalists, all they want to do is tear down. Where are these institutions? Where is NBC? Have they put out a statement? Have they said even anything about the poor victim who was shot like a dog right there in public? Has CNN said anything? Has there been any? Has the board of directors, has the private equity firm that's in back of this, have they said that Evolution is one of the guys on the boards of Evolution, another big left-wing progressive, taking your money? I want all the deplorables to understand all this is done with your pension money. The Greek remember in Greek tragedy, one of your strengths is also your greatest weakness. The savings of the deplorables is what's brought all this on. It's all your cash. Zuckerberg didn't have any money. Jack Dorsey didn't have any money. It's venture capital, private equity, hedge fund, money management, right? All of that. They say Wall Street, that's your cash. That's your savings, and that's your pension fund, and it's your insurance money. All of that money is called institutional investors, okay? That's a bunch of guys that get paid a fee, get paid some sort of overhead plus a piece of the ups, okay? And what they do is invest the money. They're the ones that have financed China. When we started the show today saying $25 billion under the Trump administration has been raised on Wall Street, that's $25 billion of your money. $25 billion of your money has gone to Chinese CCP companies for their growth and basically take your jobs here in the United States and ship them to the unfortunate slave labor of the Lao Beijing in China. Right? Controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. And here you're seeing the same thing. A guy gunned down, and these are all big institutions. You got NBC, CNN, you got this Tegna, which is driven by private equity. It's now publicly traded. Guess what? It's publicly traded. It's all owned by institutional shareholders. Whose money is that? That's your money. Okay? This is not a conspiracy. That's what I say. They make it very complicated. Actually, the world's financial system is pretty straightforward how it works, how it interacts with the world's commercial system, and then how that interacts with the world's media and how the world political system. It's fairly straightforward. This is the party at Davos, and here's what you're seeing. They're all going to try to run and hide. Well, guess what? We're going to make them famous this week, right? We're going to make them famous because what they did is they had a deplorable. And by the way, he unleashed with what, mace or bear spray or whatever. That's not lethal. And he was gunned down, shot point blank range by one of these radicals, a guy that Raheem and the guys are putting together. He's got all this Antifa and Occupy. We've got to bring back my film, Occupy and Mass. It was the great Andrew Breitbart that opened up my eyes to this back in 2012, right before he passed away, about the radical nature of the Occupy movement. One, a bunch of college kids sleeping on grates down there in lower Manhattan. It was a group of hardcore anarchists. We had David Horowitz in that film 8 years ago, and he said, hey, the point of the revolution is the revolution. There's nothing you can negotiate with these people. And you hear Keith Olbermann's rhetoric. You see the start of the show where we've got the indigenous people movement on Columbus Day. What are they doing? They're attacking Abraham Lincoln, the guy who gave his life for the Union, gave his life for the defense of this country. He was a nationalist. He gave his life to basically free the slaves, gave his life. Remember, at the start of the Civil War, the first couple of years, you want to know why nothing was really happening? The Democratic Party and the Democratic generals didn't want unconditional surrender from the Confederacy. They wanted some sort of negotiated deal, let them go in peace, right? It was when Abraham Lincoln, right before Antietam, right after a military coup, just like the potential coup against Donald Trump by the military, right, by these guys like Madison, them going to National Cathedral and lighting a candle, and Dan Coates telling Bob Woodward, oh yeah, they told me we might have to take collective action. Same thing happened against Lincoln. Until the Battle of Antietam and then the Emancipation Proclamation came. Take a short commercial break. We're going to come back. We're going to go to New Zealand. a member of parliament, is back in the new federal state. And the reason why he says, hey, Chinese Communist Party is an existential threat to the free people of New Zealand and the free people of the Western world. All next on War Room Pandemic.
America's favorite easy on, easy off energy compression socks just got better. Introducing Copperfit Energy Plus, the world's first graduated compression socks with a rich blend of ingredients found in the top moisturizing lotions and creams. These micro-encapsulated ingredients are infused into the compression fabric and are gradually released and absorbed by your movement. Motion-activated technology designed to hydrate and soften for all-day comfort. The more you move, the more Copperfit Energy Socks delivers.
I'm not thinking about that I have compression socks on. That simple fact that they feel better with them on than with them off makes me love these socks.
Our most advanced copper-infused compression fabric, made in FDA-approved manufacturing facilities, woven into our Easy On, Easy Off graduated compression sock to help reduce swelling and discomfort from prolonged sitting or standing.
I feel that soothingness in my calves and in my ankles, but they can make my feet feel good after 300 miles on the road, and they got to be good for anybody else.
Enhanced compression around the arch and ankles for extra support and relief of muscle aches and pains. And a soft, shock-absorbing footbed for all-day comfort.
All that arch pain that I typically have is just relieved. They are super comfortable.
They do the job. They're easy and they're effective. That's the whole point of wearing them.
Commercials always promise, promise, promise. This was something easy to try. Just put on a sock, see if it works. I have to say that I'm a fan.
The first ever Easy On, Easy Off compression socks with hydrating ingredients, worn by thousands of essential workers across the U.S. Order your Energy Plus compression socks online now at GetEnergyPlus.com for only $19.99 or call 1-800-515-8892. Order right now and get a second pair free.
I get compression, I get comfort, all in one sock.
Motorcycle guys appreciate the better technology. This is better technology.
Feel the power of Copperfit.
These are our classes, our happy hours, our dates, our birthday parties, our shopping. We're learning new things.
Nice technique with that knife.
And getting in touch with things we left behind. These are our lives now. Come be a part of it online. GoDaddy is making it possible for everyone to create a website for free. Learn more at GoDaddy.com.
This is Kate.
Hey.
She takes 2 prescriptions. Kate's son Jack takes one too. Kate works hard and thought she had good insurance. But she still pays too much. That's no good. So Kate downloaded the GoodRx app. Now she can compare prescription prices to find the best discounts. She even beats her insurance price. Good for you, Kate. Good for you. GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, the Cultural Revolution is in full bloom in Portland, Oregon. It's an Indigenous People Day to celebrate Indigenous people. They take down and desecrate the statues of Abraham Lincoln and President Theodore Roosevelt. In Denver, a political assassination, a deplorable gun down in cold blood by an NBC affiliate owned by one of these big companies that are driven by private equity, left-wing private equity, progressive private equity, woke private equity, your betters, right, using your money to propagate this and lying about it in the process, spinning the story that was a Pinkerton guard. Au contraire was not, and Raheem Kassam of the National Pulse is all over it. We're going to get back to that. We got so much news to get to today. Judge Barrett, and of course Chuck Schumer plays the quorum card. They're going to run and hide like the cockroaches they are. They're going to run and hide. They don't want to vote for Judge Barrett. We're going to be on top of all of it. But signal not the noise. In New Zealand, the new federal state of China, this opposition group to the Chinese Communist Party that's now metastasized, exploded all over the world, whether it's Paris, whether it's Spain, United Kingdom, Canada, just throughout the entire world. Japan, Osaka, Tokyo. They've had some amazing protests down in New Zealand, and they were joined the other day by an actual member of parliament. The first time an elected official, a major elected official, has actually stood up and been part of the protests and addressed the protests. Jamie Lee Ross joins us now from New Zealand live. He's a member of the Advanced New Zealand Party. Jamie, first off, tell us what inspired you to be really the first member, because I think it's a historic moment, the first person that's really democratically elected to go out and stand up, given all the pressure, particularly in Australia, New Zealand, that area of the world of the Chinese Communist Party, all the pressure on politicians, on cultural figures. What led you to actually go out and show this profile and courage and stand with the free men and women of the new federal state of China?
We have a significant problem in New Zealand where we have foreign interference from the Chinese Communist Party and linked organisations. And so having myself and growing numbers of New Zealanders concerned about this, we think it's important to blow the whistle on what's happening. We have significant sums of money that have flown into our democracy, into the two major parties. Several years ago, I blew the whistle on this with the major party that I was once a part of. And I think more and more New Zealanders are opening their eyes to this. We have to let people know this is happening because it's corrosive to our democracy.
Jamie, people in the United States, when they talk about this kind of cultural revolution we're going through and this chaos, this fight for President Trump, I have so many people say, well, you know what, I'm just going to leave for New Zealand. Tell us what's going on. When you say foreign interference, you're a pretty level-headed guy. What do you mean about foreign interference, and what is the Chinese Communist Party actually trying to do in New Zealand?
Well, the foreign interference takes a range of forms, but when it comes to money, it's the Chinese Communist Party linked individuals forming relationships with politicians and then attempting to influence the democratic process by donating to the political party. There's also attempts to use the diaspora communities around the world as part of the united front work of the CCP. The diaspora communities, they connect with them, they build relationships, and they get those diaspora communities to effectively infiltrate the political system. We had in New Zealand a member of parliament in the majority party that used to train spies for the People's Liberation Army. A Chinese spy trainer was sitting in our parliament, and the media and everyone turned a blind eye to it and didn't do anything about it.
Listen, for our American audience, we talk about the CCP, we do specials all the time. It's gotten to be, you've seen the Trump administration now very focused on the Chinese Communist Party. America's really shifted, talking about a decoupling, actually. But you're at the forefront. You're right there near the South China Sea, in the South Pacific. Can you tell our American audience how big a threat is China as it expands to the South China Sea, as it expands down through Indonesia, Australia, New Zealand? What type of threat is it regionally?
Well, our threat in our space is around the Pacific. If countries like Australia and New Zealand don't support Pacific neighbours, then the risk is the Chinese Communist Party starts to infiltrate, starts to gain traction there by using money effectively to buy support from those nations. The real risk here too is that we're seeing more and more threats to our democracy by way of mainstream parties. We have big holes in our donation regime where CCP-backed individuals can utilise New Zealand-registered companies to pour money into the parties. The big parties won't do anything about it because they benefit from the money. We have to keep blowing the whistle and we have to keep talking about it. And if we don't continue to support our Pacific neighbours, then eventually we'll see the Pacific taken over by CCP-backed money, and that'll be devastating. We need Australia, New Zealand and the US as well to take a keen eye on the Pacific so the CCP doesn't gain more infiltration there.
Jamie, as people say, oh, the new federal state, you got crazy Milesguo, you got crazy Steve Bannon. These people just hate the Chinese Communist Party. They're so focused on that, and this is just an instrument for them. What led you to actually kind of weigh and measure and see the folks that are involved? What led you to assess this and then to actually go out and address when they had one of their protests at the embassy?
I've been a member of the New Zealand House of Representatives for about a decade. I was the chief government whip for a period of time. You'd call that the majority whip in your system. And so I've seen up front and up close how CCP-linked organisations and individuals work so hard to gain traction with politicians. I was subject to that interference for some time myself. I woke up, I blew the whistle on donations, and now my job, I see, as a Member of Parliament is to spread the word and let New Zealanders know about what's going on. So seeing whistleblower organisations and people who are New Zealanders of Chinese descent, who love this country, who are patriots, who want to ensure we don't have that interference in this country and want to ensure that the rest of the world is free and democratic, that's worth supporting. And so as a Member of Parliament, I'm happy to stand alongside them and say they're standing up for people that want democracy, want free speech. We need that around the world.
Last question I've got for our audience in the United States. You know, we're a global show, but we're really, our strength of all our distribution partners are the leading distribution partners, whether in cable, on streaming, or on radio, of the Trump movement here in the country, many of whom are just waking up to this. What warning would you have for basically working class and middle class people in the United States who just go about their job and really don't focus that much on international affairs? What would be your warning from New Zealand for our compatriots here in the United States?
Well, my warning would be if we don't, as citizens and free-loving people around the country, open our eyes up to this, then eventually this interference will corrupt our democracy even further, and we'll see countries like New Zealand not being taken seriously around the world. And we need to have countries like New Zealand, Australia, the UK working together to fight this. If New Zealanders and Americans just close their minds and just assume everything's going to be fine, eventually we'll wake up in 10 or 20 years' time and our countries will start to look like the lack of democracy that we're seeing in China. We don't want New Zealand or Australia or the United States to ever end up like the Chinese Communist Party organizations are in China. We need to open our eyes up or we'll start to lose our country. And that's what we're trying to do in New Zealand, open people's minds up, ensure we blow the whistle, ensure that people know about this.
Jamie, how do people get more access to your writings, your webpage, your social media handle? Can you tell our audience right now?
Well, I'd go on to our Facebook page, Advance New Zealand. We've also got a website, advancenz.org.nz. But more importantly, we've got an election on right now. In about 5 days' time, New Zealanders go to the polls and determine the future of this country. We've got a very socialist regime right now. We need to have better voices in there. We're blowing the whistle. We're working hard. We've been deplatformed by Facebook over the things we've been saying about COVID-19 and how this isn't something that should result in loss of freedoms and loss of democracy. But we are losing those freedoms. We are losing free speech in New Zealand. Our current government is overriding the Bill of Rights in New Zealand because we don't have an entrenched constitution, and these are the issues we're fighting for in this election.
Jamie Lee Ross, thank you very much for joining us, the first elected official in the world to stand up with the new federal state and the whistleblower movement. Thank you for joining us from New Zealand Live, and good luck with your race. We'll be back to you closer to your election day.
Thanks for your time. Cheers.
Raheem, you saw this. This is what Brexit was. You know, Brexit was the wake-up call that really, I think, underpinned much of the Trump revolution in 2016. You're seeing an awakening throughout the world. I mean, right there you saw a hero. That guy gets a lot of grief. And you're seeing these voices throughout the world that are stepping up and saying, hey, the oligarchs of social media, coupled with a bunch of a network of left-wing politicians, are trying to shut down voices. And they're all in business with the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, it's pretty amazing. In New Zealand, they're the canary in the mine shaft. That's what we got to pay attention to what's going on in New Zealand and Australia. Because if we don't back our allies there, if we don't back patriots in those countries, it's going to come. I mean, it's already here, but it's going to come here with even a bigger vengeance. We got so much breaking news and other stories. Raheem, Jack, walk us through what's going on. I want to particularly hear anything on Schumer with the quorum, because they're going to run and hide. They don't want to vote on Judge Barrett. That we need, the progressive left is forced the fact we need a ninth justice right away because of all these issues related to the election. They're going to try to get her to recuse herself today or the next couple of days on the election. I know that's their next scam. But Raheem, Jack, give me the latest news update on all our stories recovering.
Well, it's odd, Steve. The media doesn't really seem to be wanting to cover Schumer's comment about they need a quorum and we won't give it to them. They realize that that's not working to their advantage, so it's kind of toned down in the mainstream media, the same way that they don't seem to want to replay Biden's saying that the voters don't deserve to know whether or not he's going to pack the court. This is a full-on hiding the truth from the American people. But I think it does show you that I think that McConnell needs to step up, have the vote. I don't see with 3 weeks to the election to waste any time giving them a dog and pony show to rip a very fine American jurist who's already gotten the green light from the American Bar Association and everyone else. I don't think we should play their game.
Raheem, what do you got going on?
A lot, an awful lot over the course of this weekend. I want to start with welcome back to Hillary Clinton. She had a 5,000-word audition in Foreign Affairs magazine. Now, Foreign Affairs magazine is an incredibly tiny audience, smaller audience, I think, even than the National Pulse in the grand scheme of things. That's a small audience. You know, this has been around for decades, but it's an incredibly influential audience, Foreign Affairs magazine. It's where you go when you want to read what the insiders in national security and the defense industry, what they're saying, what they're thinking. And Hillary Clinton writes this 5,000-word op-ed. Now, it doesn't sound like Hillary Clinton at all. It's not even in the sort of vernacular or the tone of Hillary Clinton. So we know she's had some great ghostwriters on this. But what does it say in this thing? It's flexing her muscle as somebody who knows not the diplomacy sector as former Secretary of State, but the defense sector. So I went through this whole thing and we put up a story on the National Pulse, Vote Biden, Get Crooked, and talks all about what Hillary Clinton goes through in her article about defense cuts that will be necessary if she becomes, or rather if Joe Biden becomes president. Ostensibly, she would become the Secretary of Defense. I think this opens up a huge line of attack for the Trump campaign. Richard Grinnell was tweeting this story out, our National Pulse story out yesterday, said he's heard rumors of this in D.C. for some weeks now, Hillary going for the SecDef position. This is it in proof. I really wish other conservative media sites would pick up on things early enough to hit back, but Joe Biden needs to be asked, do you intend to appoint Hillary Clinton into a senior cabinet position? Does her admission of major jobs cuts in the defense sector reflect the Biden campaign's priorities? And has Joe Biden spoken with Hillary Clinton over these matters of policy? I think we need answers to these questions. Steve,
let's take a short commercial break. We'll be back. Is it the restoration of Obama or the restoration of Clinton? In a minute. War and pandemic.
Stay tuned to get a free pan from Granite Stone. Stuck on eggs, burnt on batter. You can scrub and scrape, but you can't escape the nightmare of your sticky pans. Introducing the Granite Stone Pan, the all-new durable non-stick pan. No butter or oil needed. Watch, we melted down these sticky candies in Granite Stone, and it just doesn't stick. We cooked a half a dozen eggs, bacon, cheese, and tomato breakfast with no butter or oil, and it just doesn't stick. Look, caramels, chocolate, and cheese. Unreal for any other pan, but not for Granite Stone. It just doesn't stick. Granite Stone will be the last pan you'll ever need because it's pressed from a solid aluminum disc for even heat conduction, then coated 3 times with our durable Granite Stone finish. Granite Stone is metal utensil safe and won't scratch. And talk about non-stick. This salmon cooked skin side down with no added butter or oil just doesn't stick. This steak is perfectly seared just like the pros. And because Granite Stone is oven rated to 500 degrees, we bake this upside down pan pizza to perfection, and it just doesn't stick. Fire Flambe Delicious Cherries Jubilee. Plus it's PFOA free and 100% dishwasher safe. Call or go online to get your Granite Stone pan for the special TV discount price of just $19.99. Granite Stone is so durable it comes with a 10-year warranty. And with every order, you're going to get a Granite Stone single-serve egg pan absolutely free. It's the perfect size for personalized eggs, omelets, or frittatas that slide right out. It makes the best bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich quick. Yours absolutely free. We'll even ship your entire order free. That's right, free shipping. You get it all, an incredible value. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-850-0237. That's 1-800-850-0237 or order online at buygranitestone.com. That's 1-800-850-0237. Call now.
If you're over 50, imagine you could turn back the clock on your stiff, achy joints 10, even 20 years. Imagine you could do this without products that just temporarily hide the symptoms and may have side effects. Imagine no more. Get your complimentary sample of Instaflex Advanced just by texting JOINT to 231231. Instaflex Advanced is different because it targets the root cause of joint soreness and stiffness. It doesn't just cover up symptoms. Instead, it bathes your joints in its unique combination of 5 key natural ingredients found in no other product. Key ingredients backed by 5 clinical studies. Instaflex Advanced is so powerful, you could have better knees in just 1 week. Maybe that's why it's #1 at GNC. But you can only get your complimentary sample by texting JOINT to 231231. Plus, text now and we'll include a tube of Instaflex pain cream with its exclusive oxygenated oil for fast-acting relief from the pain of arthritis, backaches, and sore muscles, absolutely free. Text JOINT to 231231.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
You know why the left is triggered? Because they see the polls in Arizona where now McSally is down by Trafalgar Group, and I think CBS 2 out there is now down only 2 points. She's closed a 14-point gap. You know what that means? That means Republicans are coming home, and it means President Trump's going to be much more competitive in Arizona. Yes, the Biden campaign goes out there yesterday, draws a crowd of 0, Biden-Harris. They're nervous now. They don't have an apparatus that can actually have people go door to door, start knocking on doors. They know on November 3rd they're not going to represent. They're put all their chips on the table on this mail-in vote, and they're very, very nervous. I know this from talking to Democrats all the time. They're very nervous. This is going to slip away from them, just like 16 slipped away from them. Want to go now to Captain Maureen Bannon. She's got an update. Give us the punch list. This fiasco of mail-in ballots. What do we got? You've got like 3 or 4 stories you're covering. What are they?
I do. So first off, in Ohio, there were 50,000 people that received incorrect ballots. They either had incorrect congressional information on them or they were sent to the wrong precinct. Also in California, the California Secretary of State received reports that there are invalid voter drop boxes being put up in different areas. So people need to go online and check their exact county registrar's office to determine their drop box. In DC, there was a German journalist who is doing public broadcasting who is not eligible to vote in the United States that has received 3 mail-in ballots to his address. 1 for his landlord, who's living currently in Puerto Rico, another one for his landlord's deceased husband, and the third one is for a previous tenant that has been away from that address for 5 years. And then the final piece of news that I have is on Sunday, Governor Gretchen Whitmer said her state will not rush to ensure the results of the 2020 presidential race are counted on Election Day. She implied that that date was artificially set. She didn't give a timeline on when they would be done and counted. However, she believes that that deadline was set artificially for people with political agendas, and it'll be soon after the polls close. However, she's not going to put a number on it. They want to get it right.
Okay, hang on a second. So, Raheem, this gets back, and Jack, this gets back to the narrative we've been talking about from day one. MSNBC's got the ad on their station, on their channel right now. It's election season. You hear Whitmer right there. You know, election day, they've already said the concept of election day is dangerous. They need as many days as possible to count as many votes as possible. Raheem, you told us, I think 2 weeks ago at your address, you had 3 different ballots show up, just like the German journalist. You had 3 show up at your residence. You're not eligible to vote in the United States, but 3 ballots showed up. What would actually stop you or the German journalist from filling out those ballots and just sending them back, Raheem?
You know, from my perspective, it's ethics. But
I know the ethics. Like the German journalists won't do it either. I understand there's ethics, but my point is, practically anybody gets. If there wasn't somebody there that was ethical, you could fill them out and just send them back, right? You'd have 3 votes.
You could. I don't know what the recourse is. If I don't know if they can catch you. If somebody makes a complaint that, hey, I never cast this ballot, but something's been cast. I don't know how they intend to go back and look at these things. I don't think there is a way to go back and make sure that everybody who was supposed to vote voted and nobody who didn't. I think I could easily mail those ballots in. So could the German journalists. So by the way, there's thousands upon thousands of people like us, people who with journalist visas, all of that, who aren't eligible to vote, who will be receiving several ballots to their addresses because people have moved away or their landlords or whatever. You're telling me everyone's not going to mail those in? I don't believe it.
I think one thing that could be done here, Steve, is that we need to make it clear from a law enforcement stance, from the Department of Justice, from the local attorney generals, that anybody messing around, nobody is going to ever look at mail-in ballots more closely than they're going to look at this election, and that we are going to prosecute people who break the law. Anybody who is here as an immigrant who decides to vote illegally, they're getting a one-way ticket home. I think we need to be very clear that there will be penalties, and when we go back through this, people who did not play by the rules are going to go down. I think that will keep people from showing up.
That they're not going to.
Raheem, I want to go back to the information war part of this. Maureen reported what Whitmer said yesterday. Put that in the context of how they're trying to socialize this entire process.
Sorry, Steve, I missed that.
Whitmer saying that hey, you don't need. We're not going to announce any winner. This is going to take a while. Don't sit there on the edge of your seat on Tuesday night. Make sure that you understand this thing's going to take as long as it's going to take.
Yeah, and she's not the only one. I mean, you said it, Steve, a couple of months back now. That here's what they do. They count as much as they need to make up. They figure out what the difference is after game day, and then they delay it until they find the appropriate number that tips them over the edge. It couldn't be more clear that that's the game plan here. It couldn't be more clear. And you got Tom Friedman going on Brian Stelter this weekend saying, the biggest story. No, he said the only story in America. He said the only story in America is the Trump campaign trying to suppress the vote. That's incorrect. By the way, there are political assassinations going on. There's a Supreme Court nominee happening. There are stories. There's an economic crisis. There's a pandemic. There's a CCP crisis. There's an opioid crisis. There's an impending mortgage crisis. There are a lot of stories happening right now. But the lefty goes on the TV and he goes, the only story in America is the voter suppression of Trump. Well, the only electoral story in this country right now is the same Blair-level disruption and corruption of the voting process.
Okay, by the way, the Trump campaign or Trump campaign's actually got a team going around the nation knocking on doors trying to get more votes out there, right? Too bad the Democrats are not doing okay. We got to bounce 3 o'clock this afternoon on our Facebook page, Citizens of the American Republic. We're going to replay what we did with in Detroit, in Michigan yesterday with the Albanian church. You can hear how we're firing people up on the plot to steal 2020. Okay, tomorrow we're going to have David Rifkin on. We've got Jim Schultz on. We're going to talk about the Barrett nomination, going through Chuck Schumer trying to run and hide in this quorum. More reports from Denver. We'll see you tomorrow. National Pulse, 3 o'clock this afternoon on Real America's Voice. Raheem Gassam. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 10.